Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. From the time a calf is born, every action a producer takes or doesn't take can have an impact on the lifelong health of that animal. This week, we share some of the best advice we've gathered in the stories created with our friends at Zoetis. Let's get started. Feedyard operators want their cattle to gain weight quickly and efficiently right from the moment they're unloaded from the truck. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter introduces us to one Kansas operation that works hard to make sure animals in their care always get a strong start.
For more than 50 years, the Foote family has been on the front lines of the beef industry. And at Pioneer Feed Yard, their 35,000 head facility in western Kansas, producing high-quality beef is just as important as growing cattle efficiently and profitably.
The Foote family wants to provide the best possible food and beef for the world. They try to put out as much as we can at the best quality that we can. Our goal is to take, calf from beginning to end and get the most potential out of that calf that we possibly can, and to have healthy cattle in the meantime.
At Pioneer, they understand the importance of getting incoming cattle off to a good start. What and how much cattle eat during their first few days can set the tone for the entire feeding period. Their consulting nutritionist recommended adjusting the starting ration to include Bovatec, an ionophore that improves feed efficiency and gain without compromising feed intake. That very recommendation created big gains for the cattle and even bigger profits for the feed yard.
I've been really recommending putting Bovatec in starting diets for about the last 5 to 6 years. Everyone that I work with is using Bovatec up front as a starting program in their diet. Our measuring stick is, are we getting better within each location year over year over year? And we've had several feed yards feeding Bovatec for 2 or 3 years now, and we consistently see our feeding performance get better year over year over year. And a lot of that is just driven by consumption.
An ionophore is a naturally occurring end product from a fermentation process that, when fed to ruminants, has the effect of altering the microbial population within the rumen. They will improve gain and efficiency and can actually modulate feed intake.
If these cattle aren't gaining what they need to gain at the beginning, and we're not going to get the dollar amount that we need. If we do not get that upfront, good, healthy start on these cattle, not only health-wise but rumen-wise, we're not going to see the benefits that we need from start to finish.
When you look at the starting phase, it is the most critical in the feeding period of that animal. And to me, the greatest value of a product like Bovatec is our ability to allow that animal to attain a high dry matter intake. In my opinion, as a nutritionist, an ionophore should be in every animal every day. Based on what the compound does, there's value at all stages. So I think every animal ought to have them every day.
While the starting phase is arguably the most critical phase in the feeding period, it is important to maximize feed intake on arrival. Consumption is one thing Jason Gerstberger is not willing to compromise. For that reason, he trusts Bovatec.
Anything that we can do to keep these cattle healthy, growing, and keep their intake as much as we possibly can is a benefit, and so it's a benefit to use in starting cattle to keep that increased consumption there.
Basically, performance is really driven by the first half of the feeding period. So a proper start, proper consumption, getting cattle eating big, that's really where we make our performance. If we don't get that done up front, we don't get the opportunity to make it up at the end of the feeding period. So we concentrate in all the feed yards that I work with, and this one would be no different. We really concentrate on incoming cattle, getting cattle started on feed properly, making sure that consumption is proper.
A feed yard nutritionist will go to a lot of lengths to design a ration that cattle want to eat and will eat in quantity. The thing that we don't want to do with an ionophore is hamper or damage what they have designed and put together. Some ionophores can actually depress feed intake. Bovatec does not do that.
In addition to improved feed efficiency and gain in feed yard animals, there are also health benefits to including Bovatec in a ration, such as helping with the control of coccidiosis, a common disease in cattle on arrival.
Coccidiosis is very important to control because it's going to cause health issues with the cattle, therefore decrease in consumption, decrease in productivity, and we're going to lose a lot of our benefit from the cattle.
So when I start cattle, I'll tend to start them on a fairly high level of Bovatec, depending upon the group, somewhere between 200 and 300 milligrams per head per day. It gives us the ability to get cocci control right away and not have a negative effect on intake.
Bovatec is also approved by the FDA for use in combination with oreomycin, which provides broad-spectrum health and performance benefits. This means all of the energy of the cattle can go into efficiently converting feed into gain.
Using the Bovatec, we are able to use a medicated feed additive in with the cattle to help keep our respiratory issues decreased and keep the consumption of the cattle.
One of the things that we like about the Bovatec Oreo program that we use here is we feel like we get very good consumptions up front on the cattle. From a regulatory standpoint, Bovatec is approved for use with oreomycin, and we feel that's a strong part of our starting program to build consumption, build health, and get cattle rolled up on feed in basically a 3-week period.
The value of feeding the combination of oreomycin and Bovatec is that we will have healthier cattle. And anytime you have healthier cattle, you're not diverting energy towards response to disease, and it will go towards gain. So healthier cattle generally equal more efficient and better gaining cattle.
The Bovatec oreomycin combination allows feed programs to be in compliance with strict FDA regulations. Plus, Bovatec doesn't require a step-up program and can be fed at the full dose on arrival, so cattle adapt quickly.
The biggest benefit is that we don't have to step them up. We can just go straight on the Bovatec and just go with it. We can just have a set standard and start and feed that way. We can get the most benefit out of those cattle that we can get with the feed.
One of the nice things about not using a step-up program in terms of ionophore levels in the diet is primarily we're going to take yearling cattle in this feed yard. Starting on Bovatec at a 30 or 33 gram per ton level, it allows us to get a significant amount of ionophore into a calf, that'll control cocci, as well as improving a feed efficiency in the yearling without worrying about reducing feed intake on the cattle up front.
Ionophores have consistently proven to be an asset in growing and finishing operations. Bovatec provides a superior return on investment because it improves feed efficiency and average daily gain so cattle reach their market weight sooner.
The long and short of it is, if we can get feed into those cattle, that feed energy is converted into gain. And if we can do that efficiently, we'll have a chance to make money with a pen of cattle. Bovatec allows us to drive dry matter intake and reach those ultimate production objectives.
I like what we see in terms of how well we can get cattle to eat, and especially early in the feeding period. And like we said earlier, that is the key to performance. We certainly haven't seen anything negative as we've made the switch in all the yards I work with over the last 4 or 5 years. And the biggest thing is, guys, it's simple. And I can't stress that enough. It's an approved combination, and it's a simple program to implement, and it really makes things easier for the guys getting cattle started. Feed yards are a very complex operation. We make about 1.4 million pounds of feed in this feed yard a day. If you look at the foot family in general, we make about 7 million pounds of feed a day. We want something that's effective, but yet at the same time that's simple enough that we can repeat that process 365 days a year.
The way that we feed cattle here, I see Bovatec is something that we will continue using. Starting cattle is very important. If they're not started right, you're going to have a loss in production at some time in the early stages of the cattle. If you have that loss in production, that's loss that you could have as a benefit. And if you have that benefit, then you're going to increase your gains, your consumptions, and in the old big turn of it, you're going to see the final paycheck to be a little higher.
Reporting from Oakley, Kansas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
If you'd like to learn more about Bovatec or any other Zoetis product, visit zoetisus.com or log on to our website at cattlemantocattleman.org.